All right, let's jump right in. We're talking about web development today, but this isn't going to be your typical tutorial. Nope. This is all about shifting your mindset, about learning to think like a real pro.
So let me ask you something right off the bat. When you think of web development, do you just picture someone hammering out lines of code? If that's you, then you're in the right place, because we're about to blow that idea wide open. See, here's the big secret, the thing that separates the beginners from the pros. Professionals, they don't just build websites, they build systems.
And here's our roadmap for this explainer. We'll start with the basics. What is web development anyway? Then we'll make that huge leap from just websites to systems. After that, we'll get into the professional mindset, talk about what pro-level code actually looks like, and wrap it all up with how to get yourself truly job-ready.
All right, Section 1. What is web development? Let's get down to the fundamental building blocks.
Okay, so on a basic level, web development is just, well, it's the process of building all the websites and apps that run inside your web browser. You know, anything from Google search to scrolling Instagram to checking your bank account online, that's all web development.
And pretty much everything you use online can be broken down into three main pieces. First, you've got the front end. That's everything you see and interact with. The buttons, the text, the images. Then there's the back end. Think of this as the brains of the whole operation, working behind the scenes. And finally, the database. That's the memory, where everything from your user profile to your shopping cart gets stored.
Okay, so now that we know the three core parts, let's move on. Section 2. From websites to systems. This is where things get really interesting, where we start to see the big picture. I mean, think about it. Web development is everywhere. It's the engine behind the e-commerce giants, the social media apps you can't put down, your online bank, those educational platforms, literally any digital service you can imagine. If it runs in a browser, you're looking at web development in action.
And this circles right back to that core idea we started with. Big companies, the ones that really shape our digital world, they aren't just building a website. No way. They're building massive, complex, interconnected systems.
Let's take Amazon. Perfect example. The front end, that's the pretty product page you're looking at. But the back end, oh, that's where the real magic happens. It's handling your payment, authenticating your login, managing your shopping cart, all that heavy lifting. And the database? It's a colossal library storing millions of products and user accounts. It's a beautifully coordinated system all working in concert.
Or how about Netflix? Same exact principle. The front end is that slick interface where you're browsing for something to watch. The back end, though, that's the powerful recommendation engine, crunching data to figure out what you'll love next, and it's also handling the insane complexity of streaming that video to you flawlessly. And of course, the database is remembering every single thing you've ever watched. It's a system designed to give you that seamless experience.
And understanding this is the perfect gateway to our next section, the professional mindset. This, right here, is the secret sauce. This is what unlocks that next level thinking.
Okay, lean in for this one, because this is the real game changer. A beginner's brain is asking one question: how do I write this specific piece of code? But a professional, they're playing a totally different game. They're asking, okay, but how does this scale to 1 million users? Or, what's our plan B when this part fails? Because it will fail eventually. Or, how do I write this so the next person who looks at it doesn't want to hunt me down? See the difference?
Those questions about scale, failure, maintenance, they all point to one thing. Professionals think in systems, not just in tiny, isolated pieces of code. They're like master watchmakers, always thinking about how every single gear affects the entire machine.
And that system-level thinking zooms in on a few crucial things. A clean architecture, that's your project's blueprint. Reusable components, so you're not constantly rebuilding the same thing over and over. Something called separation of concerns, which is just a fancy way of saying you keep different parts of your code from getting messy and tangled. And of course, the big ones. Rock-solid security and making sure everything is optimized to be as fast and efficient as possible.
All right, that's the mindset. But how do we actually do it? How do we turn that thinking into something tangible? That's what Section 4 is all about, writing professional-level code.
So first off, let's be clear about what we're aiming for. Pro-level code isn't just about making something that, works. It has to be readable, super organized, modular, secure, and, this is a big one, testable.
And you can start right now. Here are 5 simple, concrete habits. 1. Use variable names that make sense. Don't just call something X. 2. If you have a giant function, break it into smaller bite-sized ones. 3. Live by the DRY principle. Don't repeat yourself. 4. Have a clean, logical folder structure. And 5. Please, please, please handle your errors. Don't just let things crash.
And you have to get this into your head. Nobody is born a clean coder. It's not a talent. It is 100% a habit. It's something you build day in and day out with discipline and practice.
And all that practice is what ultimately gets you to our final section, becoming job ready. What does the market actually expect from you right now?
The best way to think about learning this stuff is in layers. You can't just dive into the deep end. You start with a solid foundation. HTML, CSS, JavaScript, that's layer 1. Then, on top of that, you add your frameworks. And finally, you add the top layers, working with APIs, which is how all these different systems talk to each other, mastering databases, and finally deploying your work for the whole world to see.
So when it comes to getting a job, here's the checklist. Companies need you to have those fundamentals down cold. They need you to understand APIs. They expect you to have some basic backend and database knowledge. You absolutely have to know your way around Git and GitHub for teamwork. But you know what trumps all of that? Your ability to solve problems. That's the real skill they're hiring.
Because that's the whole point, isn't it? At the end of the day, writing code is just the means to an end. The real job of a web developer is to be a problem solver, to use this incredible technology to fix real-world issues for real people.
So I'll leave you with this. We've laid out the entire journey, from just writing a few lines of code to being the architect of a complex system. The only question now is, are you ready to start thinking in systems?